Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Today we're going to be looking at Rey's staff, Finn, Han Solo, Hired Gun, and Padme Amidala. We're starting here with Rey's staff. Cost 2 resources. It's an upgrade weapon. It's unique, so you can only have one of it out at a time. We're going to look at the dice, or the die really quick. So it has a 1 melee side, another 1 melee side, 3 melee at the cost of 1 resource, one resource, a special, and a blank. And the special is remove a die showing damage, either melee or ranged. I really like Rey's staff. I have a bunch of it because you get some in the starter set for Rey, and I've also just pulled a few of these, in just random packs. But I really like Rey's die. It has 3 damage sides, so 2 of them being 1 damage and 1 being 3 for a resource. 3 for a resource isn't bad. It also generates a resource. One thing I also like about it is the special. So it says remove a die showing damage. If your opponent has rolled out a bunch of dice, let's say they've rolled out one unmodified melee side and a couple +2 melees, you can remove the unmodified side, making their other 2 melee damage dice essentially useless unless they have a way to focus or re-roll those dice. I like that it only costs 2 resources, so it's a good placeholder. You get this out on Rey, first round. Even if you have it in your opening hand, you can play this on her as your first action, then immediately roll this with Rey. So let's say you throw this on Rey for 2 resources. Rey gets you another ability for playing an upgrade on her. You then roll both your Rey dice and your staff. And Rey has a lot of modified sides on her die for like modified damage. And then other thing I like is this has a lot of non-modified sides. So you can use this to essentially make Rey's dice stronger, because Rey currently has a 1 melee on her die and a +2 melee. So if you were to roll this out, let's say you got the +2 melee on Rey, and you got the 3 damage at the cost of a resource. If you still have a resource, you can trigger essentially 5 damage with her. Maybe more depending on what the other dies rolled. But for one of the more common upgrades, or common, at least I've seen it with quite a bit in boxes and different random packs. I think Rey's staff is very strong. I use it on her in my Rey and Qui-Gon deck. I also have one in my Rey and Han deck as well. So I think it's a pretty good upgrade. Only costs 2. Throw it on Rey, you also get that second action, and half of the sides on the die are damaged sides, which is pretty good. And the special is nice because you can kind of screw with your opponent's strategy. Like I said, if they have unmodified one unmodified die and a couple modifieds, you can pull the unmodified die away, making the other 2 dice useless. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at Finn next. We'll be right back with that. And here we are back with Finn. So Finn is a yellow character, a hero of course. He has 10 health. He's worth either 13 or 16 points, depending on if you want to run a single die or 2 dice. His die looks like this, so he has 1 range damage, 2 range damage, 1 melee damage, 1 shield, 1 resource, and a blank. And he's a very interesting ability where you can attach any weapon to his character, ignoring play restrictions. So, for example, like if it says blue character only, Finn can use it. Finn can use lightsabers, for example. If it's like Luke's lightsaber is blue character only, Finn can go ahead and use that. It's thematic to the movie because he picks up Anakin slash Luke slash Rey's lightsaber and uses it against Kylo Ren. And also, you can include red villain weapons and vehicles in your deck. This is very thematic, so it's basically showing that he has training or has used those weapons when he was a stormtrooper. So you can include like the F11D rifle. You can include that in your deck. You actually get an F11D in the Rey starter deck for Finn to use. You can also include red vehicles, so you can include like TIE fighters and ATSTs in your deck. I think currently his point value is a little high for the elite version, so you're looking at 16 points, which only gives you 14 points to spend on other characters. I've seen people use him with Elite Finn for 16 and a Han Solo for 14. That seems to be a pretty good combination. I like that his health is 10, so it's the same health level as Han Solo. And his die has 3 damage sides, which is pretty good. So he also pairs up well with Rey because she has melee damage as well. So if you roll out melee damage with her and her staff and this one melee with Finn, you can resolve all those at once. I think Finn is not particularly super strong yet because the amount of red weapons and vehicles is pretty limited. I think there's only TIE fighters and ATSTs so far. But once more red weapons and vehicles become available in future sets, I think Finn will become even stronger and stronger. It depends on how are we going to see Death Trooper blasters in Spirit of Rebellion. If so, Finn can use those weapons. Are we going to see different vehicles in Spirit of Rebellion? If so, you can include those in your deck if you're running Finn. Finn pairs up very well with Poe as well, so you can use Finn to get some of those red vehicles into your deck, and then use Poe's special to resolve a side of one of the dice of that vehicle. So if you had an ATST and you had it in your deck because you had Finn, you can then trigger Poe's special to just do a massive amount of damage as like a one-off. Or if you have the 6 resources, you can play it as well. But Finn right now, I think his point value is a little bit high, but we'll see how that balances out with the next set. I'm interested to see what other vehicles and weapons they put in, so we can have more options to put in hero decks that are running Finn. We'll be right back with Han Solo, so stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. All right, and here we are. We are back with Han Solo. Han Solo Scoundrel. He's worth either 14 or 18 points, depending on how many of these dice you want to run. So it's pretty high. He pairs up well with Rey, though, because Elite Rey is 12 points. Han has 10 health. He has 2 range damage, 3 range damage at the cost of 1 resource, 2 disrupt, 1 resource, another 1 resource, and a blank. He has the ability that says, after you play a card with the ambush keyword, you may give this character 1 shield. So obviously with Han, you're going to be wanting to run a lot of ambush. So whenever you play something with ambush, or even create something with ambush, for example, using Infamous, Han is going to get a shield. Han only has 10 health, so that's kind of low, but it's balanced very well with his ability, because his ability is going to let him just get shield after shield after shield if you're running ambush. So also pairs up really well with Rey. Basically, I have a Han and Rey deck, and my hopeful turn is to get something onto Rey, like a Holdout Blaster. Holdout Blaster will give Rey an additional action for her ability, which says whenever you attach an equipment to her, she gets another action. Ambush will get you another action after that. So then what you do is, on your second action, from equipping Rey, you roll out Han, and if you're running the Elite, you're rolling out 2 dice. You're hoping that one of the sides is going to land on the Disrupt side, so the 2 Disrupt, and then with the action from Ambush, you will resolve that Disrupt to remove their resources. So if it's the first turn of the game, you can essentially have your opponents take their first turn, 0 resources. Also, I like that he has 2 resources, because there's a lot of yellow upgrades like the Millennium Falcon, which cost 5. So you could also just collect resources off of him, and also resources to trigger his range damage. So he has 2 damage sides, one being modified. I think 3 damage for a resource is pretty good. I do like that he has disrupt and also 2 resources. And then you're gonna put like stuff like holdout blasters possibly on him, or even DL-44s to make that range damage even stronger. And he has a lot of good survivability because of his ability. And like I said, if you tie it in with Infamous, even basically exhaust Infamous, and even events that don't have ambush then get ambush, which will then give Han Solo a shield as well. Han Solo is also incredibly powerful if you use him with Second Chance, which basically attach it to him. Once the character is defeated, you discard that upgrade and it heals 5 damage from it. It basically doesn't really bring it back to life. It's not like endless ranks, but if Han takes 1 damage and he has 10 total, and he goes to 10 and he has Second Chance, he then will basically come back with 5 health. The way people get around that is they'll resolve 1 die at a time. So they'll hit him with 1 to essentially defeat him, trigger Last Chance, and then resolve the rest of the damage. But if you run in a deck with Starship Graveyard, you can keep getting Second Chance back. Play it on him. When it goes off, it goes to the discard pile. When you claim the battlefield, Starship Graveyard lets you put a put a support or upgrade back on top of your deck. So Han Solo, basically, if you keep getting that combo off, you can keep him alive for almost indefinitely if you have the resources to pay for second chance and your opponents don't resolve the damage correctly. What I mean by resolving it correctly is if they do 5 damage to Han when he's at 1, the way second chance works is it doesn't overkill, doesn't kill a character. So if they do 5 damage when he's at 1 health, it'll still do the 5 damage, but it won't carry over into the restored health from second chance. So that's why they want to resolve one at a time. But currently, Han Solo, one of the stronger cards in the game. I think he's actually currently the most valuable. I believe he surpassed Vader. I think Han is usually like around in the $40 to $45 area, depending on where you look. But luckily, I have a couple of these, so I have 2 Han Solo in my Rey deck. So it's Elite Han, Elite Rey. I was running Elite Leia and single Han for a while until I got my second Han. But Han Solo, definitely one of the best heroes in the game so far. And when the Spirit of Rebellion comes out, there's a card called Never Tell Me the Odds, which will just make Han Solo even stronger. It basically lets you choose any number of your yellow dice from a character, turn it to whatever size you want, and if you were to give it ambush with Infamous, not only does Han get a shield, but then you also just get to resolve all those dice. You possibly resolve a ton of dice and just basically one-shot a character. So that is Han Solo. We will be right back with Hired Gun. Alright, and here we are with Hired Gun. This is the hero non-unique. I thought this card was kind of weird at first because it looked more like a villain character to me. But I believe this artwork is from the Beyond the Rim adventure for the RPG. But this is Hired Gun, has 9 health. It's worth 8 points. It has 2 range damage at the cost of a resource, 3 range damage at the cost of a resource, 1 disrupt, 1 resource, and a blank. Doesn't have any kind of abilities, but it has some pretty strong damage if you have the resources to pay for it, so you can either get 2 or 3 damage. His only damage sides, though, are resource costed. So what people are using this for, people are using this in the Hyperloop deck, which I talked about a while ago. I personally don't like the deck, but you have a third of the chance to roll this to get, or 33% chance to get that resource. So basically, you're getting it, resolving it for resources, and then using Poe to do the rest of the Hyperloop. But it has some pretty strong damage, especially if you have a lot of other characters that generate resources. You can even get resources off of one of these and roll in another Hired Gun, hoping to get the damage and then resolve the resource to do 3 damage. So they do have some good damage, especially if you have the resources to pay the cost. They also disrupt resources, and they can gain 2 of the sides are resource dice. Again, 9 health, so not super high, but it's fairly good because I believe the other non-unique, at least Rebel Trooper, is it 7 health, or I think it's 8 possibly, but let's see. And Rebel Trooper, yeah, Rebel Trooper has 7, so Hired Gun has some pretty high health for being a non-unique character. And also, it's worth 8, so you could run 3 of these, just 3 Hired Guns, or 24. You can pair them, like I said, with Poe to create the Hyperloop deck. Please don't do that. I'm just kidding, but I don't like the Hyperloop deck, but they are a integral part of the Hyperloop because of their 2 sides that generate resources. So they're generating resources with the Hired Gun, resolving it, and then rolling out Poe, claiming the throne room, and using the resources generated from this and from the side of the Millennium Falcon to get the Falcon into play. But Hired Gun, like I said, I was kind of thrown off when I first saw this card because I thought it was a villain, and then I saw it was a hero. But 9 health, 8 points towards your team. That's a pretty good die. The sides being basically, I wouldn't be counting on this character to really be doing a lot of damage unless you're rolling it with other damage dice like holdout blasters or maybe DL44s. But 3 damage for a resource isn't bad. I probably would rather land on that side than land on the 2. I think 2 damage for a resource is a little bit costly, but 3 for 1 is pretty good. So that's going to do it for Hired Gun. We'll be right back with the final card of the day where we're looking at Padme. Alright, and welcome back to the final card for today's video. We are looking at Padme Amidala. She's worth either 10 or 14 points. She has 10 health. And her die looks like this. She has 2 focus, 1 discard, 1 resource, 2 specials, and a blank. And her special is discard the top card of an opponent's deck, or spend 1 resource to discard the top 2 cards of that opponent's deck. So she's very interesting in that the way mill works generally in Star Wars is usually out of hand in Destiny. Padme, her special actually mills right out of the deck as well. And then if you have a resource to spend, you can get 2 mills out of it as well. Her die is very strong, I think. So it's like I said, you can focus 2 dice with her. She has a discard face of her own. She can get a resource and then 2 specials. The specials are very good for mill decks. Currently, I have, and I'm kind of building and testing an Padme Akbar deck. Akbar has some discard. Padme has discard. They both have focus, so you can basically focus into whatever specials you need. You can focus into Padme specials on both of her dice. With like something else, like Akbar, I believe is a focus 2. And is Akbar focus 2? I believe he is. Yep, Akbar does have a focus 2 side, so you can focus, let's say, both your Padme dice, put them both on the special, resolve special, so you get to resolve both. If you have 2 resources, you can essentially get them to mill 4 cards out of their deck. So Padme is very good at milling. I'm also running thermal detonators in that deck, just because the discard faces on that are very good. You can also increase Padme's mill with stuff that says, like, if it says resolve a die and increase its value, could increase the value of the mill, you can increase the value of the resource or even the focus. She's only, like I said, only 10 points for 1, 14 for 2. So currently with Elite Akbar, I believe it's a 28-point build, and they're a very good team for milling. So I really like Padme's ability. Her health is pretty good as well. One thing I thought was weird was that she was put in the yellow group, but also at the same time, she really wasn't. This version of Padme really wasn't affiliated with. There was no rebellion yet, so she wouldn't be command. She wasn't a force user, so I guess yellow is good for her as well. It's just funny that Padme is yellow, Leia being red, but diplomatic immunity, which has Leia on the die, is a yellow die. But Padme right now, currently, probably if you're building a mill deck, or a hero mill deck, you're going to be using Padme. Padme, possibly Akbar. Leia, I've had a little bit of success with Leia, not as much as Akbar. Leia's ability to reroll is nice, but Akbar is just a better fit for Padme, I think. And also having 2 specials is pretty nice, especially if you roll it with something like Cunning, where you can trigger the special on anything. So you trigger a special on Padme, and then you're basically just milling for at least 1. 2 if you have the resources. But that's going to do it for today's video. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow with some more Star Wars Destiny breakdowns. Thanks for watching.